And we're live. Hey
Oh,
guys. I am Jayne Theory and I'm here with Nina Infinity. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Are you ready to talk about Killjoys?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to thank you first for having me on your channel. This is the first time I've been here, so I'm very excited to be here. And I'm excited to talk about Killjoys because it's one of my favorite newer shows that's ended.
It's so awesome. I hate that it ended.
Mhm.
But yeah, thanks for agreeing to come on and talk about this because this is something I didn't know there were many people who were actually fans of it. You hardly hear about it anymore.
Yeah, it's one of those shows, I think especially in the US market that it
Mhm.
didn't, get as like out there as other shows because it was, a British show and not
Mhm.
a lot of people were familiar. It's not like a Netflix show or something where people were like, so into it. It was by I think it was by Sci-Fi and Space, like it's like a Canadian Space is the Canadian
Yeah.
thing. And they what Sci-Fi doesn't usually come out with shows that they actually end properly. So
Right.
this was a really it was a nice surprise that they finally came out with something that was like, okay, it's a really decent show and it has a decent ending.
Yeah.
So it was like that was nice. And I think like people were surprised that it got an ending because like I said, Sci-Fi usually just cancels everything.
Mhm.
So everyone was like, "Oh, well, Killjoys is gonna end," and it's it's got there's a place that we go to at the end of this tunnel.
And the funny thing is, there was like around season 2, I remember there was some controversy, like people weren't sure if it
Hmm.
was going to come back.
Yeah, because I think it was around the same time that they canceled Dark Matter, which was
Mhm.
another Canadian show, which is a fantastic show. It was so good, so good.
Oh,
I don't know if
good.
you've seen that, but
I have. It was so good.
oh my God, it was so good. And I was so sad that they canceled it. Like I was so into that show. And I was like, I'm fucking boycotting Sci-Fi. I hate you. Well, except for Killjoys. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we still have Killjoys. It's okay.
And for people who don't know or haven't heard of the show, like how would you describe it for someone who's
I
never seen it?
would describe it as obviously it's sci-fi because it's
Mhm.
based on it's based in it's in space and a totally different kind of universe. It's a bit of a space opera-esque kind of show. And
Mhm.
it's about bounty hunters. It's about a group of bounty hunters, a group of misfits that, you know, in by unlikely circumstances come together and form this, merry band of the trifecta and
Yeah.
they have these adventures and it's really cool. It was
It's
a
really fun. When I first saw it, like it reminded me a little bit of sort of like Firefly.
it, it definitely had a Firefly feeling to it.
So if anybody likes Firefly or if you like the Mandalorian type of thing, you may enjoy this because it has the bounty hunter aspect, even though it's a little bit of a different culture to it with different rules. And
It also reminded me kind of Cowboy Bebop actually because it was
yeah,
like three misfits in space like kind of thing like well I mean Cowboy Bebop is four technically well
yeah,
five if you count the dog but still like two guys and a girl kind of thing and of course the girl's like so badass and they did
right.
it right. Like this is one of those shows where they did the female crazy badass chick right. Like
Yes.
she wasn't a Mary Sue. She'd been through the shit.
Mhm.
It was really cool. Dutch's character was really well done.
She had vulnerabilities. She had
Mhm.
strengths, but she also had smarts. Like everything she did wasn't always physical. She knew how to use her environment and things around her.
She was so smart. She she would like clue into different
Mhm.
things and then, figure out, oh, maybe and like sometimes she would use her sexual,
Right.
thing to get what she wanted because she had to. Like she was this assassin. She like was badass. I mean, it was so cool. The way that they designed her character was very
Right.
well done. I don't know if
And
they could do that nowadays.
I was about to say, you don't see it these days, and I don't think you would, because she, just like what you said, she uses her femininity too,
Mhm.
not just
Yeah.
her physical strength. And that's a no-no. Like, no one wants
Yeah,
to.
that was one of my favorite scenes. I think it was one of the earlier episodes where she's like dressed in that like really beautiful dress, and she goes to that party
Hmm.
from the hires or whatever they were called. And then because she's trying to infiltrate to like get that other guy, and then she like just kicks ass in that dress, like, and she like rips like the side so she can like get on like top of the guy's neck, and like, you know,
Right.
she's just like a badass like moves, and I'm like, damn girl, like shit, in
That
that
was,
dress you're kicking ass.
that was such a good scene. And you
Yeah.
see so much of that too. I love that. I love that about her. So you have the
Mhm.
female characters done well, but you also have it in a situation where the guys aren't diminished,
Yes,
especially.
exactly. They were so well done. Like the guys were well done. And you even have like kind of like later on in the show, you also have kind of like the AI relationship,
Yeah,
which I thought was really cool. Like, and it still didn't diminish the men. Like, you know, I was like, like he loves the AI, but it's not like, oh, I love the AI because I can't get a girl. Like it
right.
wasn't, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like that. Like he
Yeah,
chose to love her because it was just the way it was. Like he just fell in love with her.
yeah.
Um,
John is really smart, a really smart character, but I like that he was also balanced with his physical strength, and
mhm.
all of the characters were really well rounded,
Yes, they were for
and that
sure.
you don't see all the time.
You don't see that anymore at all. Like it's really freaking rare, other than Dark. Like,
Right.
and
Yeah.
again, that was like a German show too, right? That's why, like,
Hmm.
I feel like it's like maybe it's Hollywood that's the problem because you don't really see that in like Hollywood shows anymore. Because there's still a lot of British and other country shows that are quite well. Like they do stuff quite well. And Killjoys is one of them. Killjoys is definitely not Hollywood.
Right.
So.
Right. They did things that you definitely wouldn't see. Even in Devon, you get this
Mhm.
character who would typically be the archetypical sort of strong guy, right? The brunt of the group. And yet he has such emotional depth too. And we see that even in the very first episode.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like kind of they have beef with their dad and like, you know, they have like they're complicated characters in that sense because they all have like this backstory and like
Right.
they have daddy issues. Like so you're like, oh, like and then you meet the dad later
Yeah.
on and like they face that, you know, and that's like that was really cool too. And like the dad like actually like finally does something for his sons, you know,
Hmm.
after all the shit that he put them through and you know he was a shit dad. Like you were like,
Right.
okay, this guy's a shit dad for sure. Like no problem. But in the end of the day, he was still a dad and like
Right.
still risked his life for his sons. And that was really cool to see.
It was, and that goes back to another thing that we don't see very often, and that is a father figure actually being supportive or doing something good for his sons. You
Exactly.
have him introduced as like you said, a shit dad, but he's able to be redeemed, or he's able to recover
Mhm.
from that. And here in Hollywood, you don't get that. He's just either completely absent, or he just remains, the shit dad archetype.
Yeah, that kind of like juxtaposes with what I saw actually recently in Umbrella Academy season 2. Did you see
Yes,
that?
yes. Which is
Like I
another
was like
reason why I
so
really don't watch
annoyed
that.
about that whole dad thing. I was like, this guy's not even a bad guy, and like now we're being shown that this guy like was just an awful person, and then dies. Like
That's
what?
it. Yeah, and they even have him say like he hates kids. That that's not really what we saw in season one.
No, no.
Yeah, I hated what they did with that. So, what drew you to Killjoys? What drew you in?
Well, a sci-fi. I mean, because I love sci-fi, so I'm
Mhm.
always looking for the next, like, what's the next sci-fi thing? And actually, my husband watched it, and he was like, oh my God, this show's good. Like, you got to watch this. And this was one of the first shows that he introduced me to. And I was
Yeah.
like, I was surprised because my husband like has kind of given up on shows after like what happened to Star Trek and everything.
Yeah.
So he was like, no, this is pretty good. You got to give this a shot. And I was like, okay. So like we started watching it together. Like he rewatched season 1 with me. And then I was hooked. Like I was hooked within like, I think the first couple of episodes. I was like, okay, I'm in this for the ride. Especially because that one fight scene with the dress was like, I think in like the first or second episode.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty early on. And I was like, this chick is freaking badass. And I want to know why.
Right.
I want to know why. Everything that you're like explaining in the show, I want to know why. I'm hooked.
And the crazy thing about it for me, like I love sci-fi too, but I don't know how I came across this show, but I somehow ended up watching the very first episode. And there was so much information written in a beautiful way. We got the characters were introduced well. We got a little hint into their backstories, into the world, the universe. We got a little bit of the history of the universe. We got some of the rules. We got to understand what they do for a living. We learned about the profession and how dangerous it is. We learned about these sort of secrets and mysteries, and even the characters. The question about who is she? How did she learn this?
Exactly. And like the red box, like,
yes,
what's up with the red box? Like, you know, who's that guy? Like, you know,
right. It was just crazy. It all
dad or whatever.
First episode.
Yes, exactly. I think Klein. His name was Klein.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing about the show was it was full of diversity. Like, diverse cast across the board, but they never once said anything about it. Like not even a peep about, oh, we have a diverse cast. Like it was just the way it is, like, you know, and it was cool.
And it was natural. Nothing seemed forced, you know, it made sense. And I love that about it too. It's so, in fact, I didn't even notice it. Like you mentioned it.
Yeah.
It wasn't something you initially even really pay attention to. You pay attention to the characters and the stories. Like, and that's how it should be.
Exactly. Like, you know, you're so in, like, you know, for the show that, and then later on you realize, oh yeah, like it's diverse because you don't really think about it until, and then you're like, well, yeah, like there's 2 white guys and like a black girl. And then like, you know, that guy, like Klein, I think he was Middle Eastern. And, you know, and then there's Dalsea, she's like Asian. And there's like all these different types of people are in it. And then, but it works. It just worked so well. And, you know, nobody's the same. You know what I mean? Like everybody's different.
Another great thing about the show is that it's sort of interplanetary. So you have these people coming from different sort of cultures or backgrounds based on where they're from and where they are in the social hierarchy. And all of that is conveyed really well.
It is. The social hierarchy of this show was actually very intricate. Like the like all the little nuances and stuff was very intricate and like very well done, with like Crash and, you know, all the little, you know, the colonies, and then, you know, the hires and the like the well-off people. And you get such a picture of the clash of how their society works. And, you know, it's not a good picture. You're like, oh, this is kind of, it's almost dystopian in that sense, because there's such a huge clash. And of course, one of my favorite villainesses in this show was Dalsea, played by Mayako Nguyen. I think that's Nguyen. I'm totally butchering her name, but she was freaking awesome. And like, she was one of those characters that I love to hate, because I freaking hated her. But every time she was on the screen, I was like, oh yes, it's Dalsea. Like, you know, like It was just one of those things where you're like, oh, I hate her, but I also really
Oh,
love
I
her.
hate her so much.
Yeah.
Like they had so many great actors, and these weren't people who you necessarily knew before. Some of them
Mhm.
were, but a lot of them seemed to be new or they hadn't been in a show like this before. And they did a fantastic job with casting.
They did. They really did. Like I said, I had no idea who Hannah John-Kamen was. Like I didn't know who she was. I was like, oh, this chick, like she's pretty. Like I'll watch her. You and then she turned out to be such a great actress.
The only one I knew was Aaron Ashmore.
Me too. Yeah, because of Lost. I
Yeah.
knew him from Lost. But like with her, it was so crazy because like you can see how great of an actress she is later on when when her doppelganger shows up and you're like, oh, wow, she's complicated.
Right. I mean, her ability to play different people so well that you actually see different people when they're on the screen.
Yeah.
Insane. Her talent, I mean, is amazing.
Like, to this day, whenever I see stuff with her in it, I'm like, I'm in. Like, I'm like, it's Dutch. I'm in. Like,
Like,
yes.
no.
Yeah.
She
Like,
is
and
that
it
good.
hasn't been very many, but like every time I see her on the screen, I'm like, it's Dutch. Yay. Like,
And that's a credit to the actors too. Like you don't have to be in a ton of things. If you take a few select pieces that you know you're going to be really strong in, that's how you build yourself up, I think.
Yeah, and that's the I think that's kind of like the flaw in what's going on with most actors and actresses today is they try to like do that one big score and then they're like, and then they just botch everything else they're in, and they're like, dude, like what are you doing? Like have better selection. Like what you know what you're capable of, so like do that.
Oh, they're just getting terrible, terrible movies and television shows.
Yeah.
Ruin
And
their
then of
brand.
course when they're not getting any jobs, they end up going all like woke and trying like get woke points. And you're
Get
like,
attention. Speaking of characters, who would you say is your favorite in the show?
Oh my god. Well, Dulcea being like my love-hate character, I think my favorite character was probably well, I really like Dutch. I really, really like Dutch, but I also really like her alternate. So, like, I loved her. Like, I thought she was fucking nuts. Like, she was mental. I was like, I love her.
Right.
With her like drinking the green and like just like she was so badass and like just walking around her ship and it's like it's all white and like pure. Like the aesthetics was so cool. So I think it's Dutch / that chick. What was her name again?
Was it Anila?
Anila, that's right. Yeah, her.
Yeah, she was epic. But along those lines, I would say I liked Davin. I like Davin Jacoby. And not just because he was cute.
Aww.
I liked him as a character. He was very complex. He was a skilled fighter, but he was also, you could tell, a loving, caring, sensitive person.
Yeah.
His relationship with his brother, I really like that.
Teddy bear.
Yeah, he was exactly. And loyal to a fault. And I love how his character evolved. And that's the other thing about the show. The characters change. They grow. And that's something, it seems like a lost art.
It really does, which is really sad because you would think like that would evolve over time, but it's totally de-evolved right now.
They have to stay the same or they don't know how to create the type of conflict that allows for growth.
Yeah, like for example, with Davin and his brother, John, like Davin and John's relationship was so cool because like he was the older brother and then like they had that dynamic and like they always had like they got into like this banter, like the brotherly banter was so well done and like there was just so much like there was so much nuance to their characters that added to the show. Even when like it had nothing to do with what was going on with like the plot, but you would
Yeah.
always learn little things about them, or like you would see them like, you know, like punch each other in the arm, or
Mhm.
like just have that brotherly thing going on. And you don't really see that anymore, again, because
No.
like today's media is just trying to like kind of diminish like that male bond, and like the
Mhm.
bromance and like all that kind of stuff, like is kind of, I don't know why it's dissipating, but that's
Right.
what really, it was really lovely to see that between these guys on the screen, like that chemistry of the
Yeah.
brotherly bond was really cool.
And they did have such great chemistry, even all three of the characters together. Um,
Mhm.
and that's another thing that drew me in is just how realistic their relationship was. You could believe that they were actually really good friends in real life.
Yeah, totally. And you know what else I really liked about it? And maybe this is a tiny bit of a spoiler alert, but
Mhm.
I kind of like liked that it wasn't like a love triangle in any way.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning, like you kind of got the hint that they might be like a love triangle thing,
Mhm.
but then it wasn't, because then they like really reinstated that, you know, John and Dutch were best friends. Like it was a
Right.
platonic relationship. They were just really good friends. And you know, the fact that she started seeing Davin at first scared him, because he was like, well, what if you guys don't make it? What's going to happen to our friendship, you know?
Exactly.
And I love that. Like I was like they even had this kind of friendship thing that you don't see anymore, especially between like a man and a woman, that
Right.
there can be platonic friends without having like this really awkward sexual, like, you know, thing that,
Right.
especially when like the person's brother is involved, like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, like, and he has feelings for her and she has feelings for him, so it's not like this like weird kind of like incestual thing going on, you
Right.
know, which usually that's what happens on Hollywood shows. They like like, oh, like let's just throw in a little incest here and there, and you know,
Drama.
that'll get the ratings up because of, you know, obviously Game of Thrones. But
Yeah. Characters you like, what about characters you don't like so much?
oh wait, one more character that I really
Okay.
love was Fancy.
Yeah.
I love that guy. I thought he was so cool. He
He
was
annoyed
badass.
me a little bit.
He annoyed you a little bit?
He did. I don't know why. It was just, I don't know. It's something. But see, this is the thing with me. I so fell in love with the three of them
Hmm.
that I didn't really I don't know. I didn't like a lot of the new characters they introduced over the course of the show. Like I knew it was important for them to
But
introduce more
Fancy was there
people.
from like day one.
Not the first. He wasn't prominent.
No, he was like a secondary character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he became more of the story over time, and I just didn't.
Yeah, he was, well, like they all did, because they had to band together to beat the lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
I
couldn't
know.
all do it. They couldn't just do it, the three of them. Like, dude, come
Just the
on.
three of them forever.
Like, dude, that you know, the ultimate enemy in this show was like really next level. Like, you
Oh
needed
yeah.
you needed help
Yeah.
to like beat her.
They had to get an army. But that that storyline did introduce more, I think, especially with a character I do like, Davin. He had to grow into a leadership position, and that was something that he had
Yes.
never really wanted. So that was great to see, and I did like how he was able to mature in that way and accept responsibility and accept that role that he had been so afraid of.
Yeah, I remember like there was I forget which season it was though, and at the beginning, like he had left, like
Mhm,
I think it was season 2 to 3, like he had left, and then there was a bit like of a gap where he
mhm.
wasn't with the other two, and that kind of annoyed me because I was like, I like the three of them, like why did he leave? Like where is
Right.
he? And then when he came back, though, that reunion was really cool because you were like,
Mhm.
oh, I miss them together. Yay. Like, you know, and they're like, they're together again. And then
Yeah,
it was
I
cool
love
again.
that. That
But I
was
didn't
so
like that
good.
part. I didn't like when he was separated. I was like, mm. But again, he had character development when he was
Right.
separated. So then, you know, like I didn't hate it because he wasn't with them, but he was like having his own growth. And, his own moment with like the AI and everything, all that stuff. So I was like, okay, like I'm into this, but I would be more into it if he went back and was with Dutch. What's his name?
Right.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. The characters I didn't like, unfortunately, was Zeph and Pippin.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get into their characters, especially Zeph. She just really annoyed me all the time.
I hated them both.
Yeah, like I just could not get into Zeph, especially like when they would do those like really weird, like close-up shots of her like looking into like a microscope or something, and I was like, all I could see on the screen is eyeball because her eyes are like really big. So she's like this, and I'm like, dude, like zoom out, you know. I don't know, but that's not why I didn't like her. I just didn't like her character.
Yeah, I didn't like her character. I didn't like her storyline.
She was super emo. I was like, okay, dude, like people lose people, like get over it.
Right.
I didn't like her.
What about Klein?
Who?
Klein.
Oh, I love Klein. Klein was great.
That guy was, you talk about the lady, but he had his own sort of next level villain aesthetic too. Like, I mean, this guy, you know, was a badass from the moment you saw him on screen.
Oh yeah, and he was there from day one. So he was part of the mystery of season 1. And you knew he was going to be complicated. Like, you know, like you were like, okay, this is going to be a complicated character because they kind of give you like snippets here and there of like his involvement with Dutch and how she feels about him. Right. So like, I was like, okay, he's got to have a reason for all this. And then as that kind of comes to light, I wouldn't say it has a redeeming thing for the character, but at the same time, you're like, I knew this was good. This was going to be complicated. So like, you're kind of like, okay, I follow this more than, you know, if it was just some dude doing like crazy ass shit. You're like, okay, like there was a logic to his madness.
Right. And I love the flashbacks too. We saw that from the beginning. And it, like you said, it was just these little snippets, these little clips. And you could see in his face this, I've never seen a character that can be both loving and nurturing and ruthless and scary, like in the same moment.
Exactly. It was so weird. And he had that like fatherly, you know, feelings towards Dutch, which is kind of, again, disconnected because you know that like it's not her real father. So you're like, you're kind of like, well, why does he love her so much? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. Like
It's so weird.
His love for her was really strange, but very fatherly in that sense. But at the same time, you're like, whoa, what an abusive father this dude is. Like,
wow.
I
thought at any second he could kill her, which I mean,
I mean, he was freaking nuts.
It was insane.
But I really liked his character. And I thought that, I mean, later on, when you find out what you find out about him, I was like, aw, like, I was kind of like, aw, you know, like, but at the same time, not aw, like, stop experimenting and doing weird shit. Like, this is what happens when you experiment on alien life forms.
What about your favorite season?
I think my favorite season was probably season, I don't know. I mean, I really, really liked season 1 because season 1's the one that got me into the show.
Right.
But I also really like when they introduced the, like, what's her face? What was her face again? Anila, that's right. I loved Anila. So I was like, yes, like this is great. And then like when they had like the Dalsea turn Holland, I was like, yes, like she is her true nature now. She's like not human. Like that was who she was. She was never human. Like she was like this monster and she turned into one. And then she became more human. That was the weird part, is like when like she turned Holland, she actually kind of found her humanity because she realized like, you know, she found love. She kind of became a mom in a sense.
Yeah.
And like, you know, her motherly like instincts, I guess, came out, which was still killer. Like it was killer instincts, but it's like, you know, she started getting some compassion a little bit, which was more human than when she was actually human.
Right.
she was a fucking crazy batshit bitch when she was human. I was like, oh my God.
Oh God, I could not stand her. But yeah, she did become a little bit more tolerable.
Yeah, like when she killed oh God, I'm sorry, that's a spoiler, but when she killed John's girlfriend in the first season, I was like, oh, I fucking hate her. Like, because I really liked that girl too. Like, I really liked her, and I liked their relationship. And again, it's really rare to see redheads in TV shows these days. So I was like, no, don't get rid of the redhead. But like, when she killed her, I was so sad. I was like, no. And then I hated her. Like, that was one of the parts where I was like, oh, I hate her. And then somehow she was so great that like she won me over again. I was like, I don't know what she did afterwards, but I was like, oh God, like she's so complicated. Like I like her, I hate her, I like her, I hate her. It's like it's so weird.
But that just again, that's a credit to the writing.
Yes.
These characters are so well done that you feel that way. Probably my favorite season would be, I would say season 2. I love season 1 because that was also sort of the introductory these characters in the world and everything. But in season 2, it's like they finally, now they're together. I sort of love that post introduction phase.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to keep forever. When you get to season 3, that's when you start to see all of these new challenges that required them to expand and sort of build an army to face this super threat.
That was my favorite season, right? Season 3.
Yeah, I think that was yours.
Yeah. It's just because of Anila. I was waiting to figure out what the hell was going on. And then when they explained that, I was like, oh, it's all falling into place. Like, I like when things fall into place. So that's why.
Yeah. And that was so great because it does lead up to that. I mean, you were talking about a show having an actual ending. It did, because everything really flowed together really well from the very beginning to the end.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's not like the best ending of all time, but it was a good ending. Like it was a decent ending. It wasn't like one of those endings where you're like, oh, this show, like, you know, I don't want to, like, I wasted my life watching this. Like it wasn't like that. It was like, you know, it was satisfying. It was good.
Right. And it wasn't a season 8 Game of Thrones situation.
Oh no, it wasn't Lost. And it's so funny because that guy from Lost was in it. So
yeah,
but it wasn't Lost. It wasn't Game of Thrones. It was good. It was a decent ending. I liked it.
I liked it.
Yeah, I was satisfied. Like I wasn't like, yeah, that's what they did. Like I would have been pissed if they had made it so that, like, you know, like they kind of like went different all of a sudden, and then like it's like John and Dutch are like together or something, or like, you know, like when they throw away like a whole bunch of shit they set up, but it wasn't like that. Like they ended it really well, so in line with everything that they had already set up and kept in place. They stayed true to the characters to the end.
Exactly. They didn't destroy the characters, thankfully.
Exactly.
Any final thoughts about the show? What's the rating overall?
The rating overall, I think, oh, by the way, the other character I really hated was Jack. Like, oh my God.
Oh God.
Why did they have to do that? That was so stupid.
I like the for the first moment when Davin finds out about him. His expression.
Yeah, that was so funny.
That was so funny, and how he deals with that idea was really cool to me. I love that part of it, and I almost feel like they did it to get that reaction out of him.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I say I didn't like him, which I didn't. I didn't like the character, but like I also liked what he did for Dulcea, like how he kind of introduced that humanness to her, because she became his mom, so he was like his protector. So like I liked her reactions to him, but it's just funny because I didn't like him as a character. Like I was like, I don't there was something missing there. Maybe they had to work on it more or something, but he wasn't like as like well done as the other
Right.
characters, you know?
They could have picked a better character there. I would say that would probably be the issue I have with casting.
Hmm.
Casting across the board is great, but that kid
Yeah, maybe it
probably,
was the kid. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be mean to the actor because I've actually never seen him in anything else, but
yeah.
I was
But he's a
just
good actor.
I was just not feeling it. Oh, apparently he's in The Expanse. I didn't know
Oh,
that.
really?
Yeah.
Which is another good show, by the way.
Great show. Fantastic show. I love that show. I mean, hopefully it'll have a good ending.
Hopefully.
Hopefully it'll have an ending.
Oh God, I hope so. It's such a good show.
I think the books are gonna be finished though. I think that in the next like year or so they're gonna finish the
Mhm.
books, which I'm gonna have to start reading. Like
Yeah.
I've never have you read the books?
I have not. They're on my list of things
Me
to read.
too. Me
I
too.
love the show, and I'm glad they brought it back.
That you know what's weirdo is one of the reasons and I'm going off topic here, but one of the reasons I didn't read the book is because I enjoyed the series so much that I was like, I don't want the book to ruin the series for me because it usually does, like because the books
Yeah.
are usually better. So you're like,
Uh-huh.
oh man, like the shows lose something after, you know, especially when you know what's coming. You're like, they didn't do it like this because your own imagination makes everything
Right.
a lot different, right?
But the
Um,
book readers are saying that it's good. They're saying that it sticks pretty well to the book.
Yeah, I know, but you never know what could happen in the future because the books
Mhm.
aren't finished. So they
Right.
could change things like in the middle, you know, or
Yeah.
like all of a sudden they'll like, you know, take like one storyline and swap it out for another storyline or something
Mhm.
like that. You know how like, they do that stuff for TV shows. That's why I haven't read it because I was like, maybe I'll just wait until I finish the TV show before I read this. Because I made that mistake with Game of Thrones and I'm still bitter.
Oh God. Yeah.
But see, that's the reason I like Killjoys because it's not based on a book. This is
Mhm.
original content, like as
Yeah.
original is gonna get is Killjoys. Like, and they've built a world. These writers created this world and this solar system and this, you know, this kind of these dynamics and all the different things, the spaceships, the air travel, the
Right.
way, like, you know, everyone interacts, the money, the currency, like that, there's everything within this world was created by original writers for a TV show, not a book that's turned
Mhm.
into a TV show. This is original content. That's why I freaking love Killjoys. I think that's my final thoughts on it. Is this is as original is going to get. It's got a great ending. Everybody should try it. It's a good show.
And what would you rate it?
Probably, I would say like, I want to say 9, like 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty up there for me. It's 8 or 9. Like, yeah, probably 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would my final thoughts would be this is the type of show you should watch if you love, like you said, original content and a unique world, a whole new universe, something that's different. You talk about escapist entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. And
Yeah.
it does have relevance to real world life, but
Mhm.
it's not in your face. You know, it's
Exactly.
something you can just watch and enjoy and become a part of it. They have their own little language quirks as well, which
Yes,
is
they do.
which
I
is so
love
cool.
that stuff. It's kind of like the Belters have their own
Yes.
language and the Expanse. They have that kind of stuff in this too. And it's really cool.
It's so enjoyable. It really brings you in, and for however long that episode lasts, you are just engrossed with it. Great characters, great character development, great story, great writing, visually beautiful. I love the colors and the costumes.
Fantastic. It's so well done. It's not like super dark. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like but it's got this like it's got a darkness to it, but it's not like super darkly shot. So you're not like, oh man, like I just feel like depressed when I watch this show. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like it still has like a lot of bright shots, especially when you get to like season 3 when you see like
Mhm.
the Anila's spaceship and stuff like that big giant mothership is like just all white, and like, you know, like everything that you see is so bright and so like juxtaposed to what you see like down on the planets and stuff like that, which is darker and grim. You know, especially like the poor planets where you're like, oh God, like this place, I definitely don't want to be there. Like, you know.
But it's done so well that you actually do feel that way.
Yes, exactly.
You can really relate to it. You can feel like you've been there. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, you're like, I really don't want to be part of the lower class society. I would do what I have to do to get up there with Dulcea. Let's just
right. Exactly.
Oh my God. I would probably become a bounty hunter, though, in all seriousness. Like in that world, I'd become a killjoy. By the way, their bounty hunters are called Killjoys. That's what the name of the show is. So I'd probably become a killjoy as well. I'd be like, all right, kid. Because I definitely don't want to be a poor person. And I don't think I have it in me to be a, you know, one of those rich people. Besides that, the rich people is just like genetics. Like they, like, it's very like, you know, what's monarch kind of style. So you can't really become one unless you basically fuck everybody over or kill everybody before you, like, you know, before you ascend. But like being a killjoy, you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere. You can do whatever you want, and people have to kind of, you know, respect your authority because you're a killjoy.
And you're neutral. You don't get into the politics.
Exactly. Or you try to be.
Yeah.
Until
I would be. It's all about the warrant.
Yes, exactly. It's all about. That's why I liked what's his name, the one you said you didn't like, because he was very like, I don't give a shit. Like you got a warrant out. You're getting effed. Like that's it. Like, this is your warrant. I'm gonna come after you with my badass samurai sword, and you're going down. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, that was cool. In my rating, I would give this, only because there were aspects of the sort of the later seasons that I didn't like, I would give it a 9.5. Otherwise, it would be perfect.
Yeah, me too. That's why I was like 8, 9. Yeah, like, so I'm sticking with 9 because I also feel like if they hadn't done like certain things, especially near the end, I would have given it that solid 10 as well. But just certain things like here and there that makes it a little less than perfect, which is fine. You know, like it was fine. It was not a bad thing to, I mean, that's still a high rating in my book.
Oh, definitely.
9 out of 10, like, holy shit. You don't see that anymore.
It's a fantastic show. Like, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
Check it out, guys. It's the best. It's good sci-fi.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on YouTube. I got a little small channel right now. And so Nina Infinity. And on Twitter, you can find me at Nina7Infinity, where I will announce where I will be on Thursdays. I do live streams of the Queen's Council. And on Mondays and on Fridays, I'm on this gentleman's show. His name is John Talks. We have a show called Infinite Talk on Monday, and on Fridays we do a show called Fantastic Four. You were on it last week.
Yes.
And it was great. It was so much fun.
So
yeah, we're John Talks. Everybody go subscribe to him, and find me on Twitter. I'll be posting where I'll be. So thank you. And thank you, Jayne, for having me on here.
Oh, thank you for coming to my first stream thing. Guys, you can find me here on YouTube, where I post weekly movie and television reviews every Sunday at 6 Central, as well as some occasional pop culture news and commentary. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jayne Theory, especially Twitter, because that's where I post where I am else. But yeah. But thanks everyone for joining us. Definitely go out and watch Killjoys.
Watch Killjoys, everybody, because then we can have another live stream and talk about it with you guys who, saw it and liked it. So
yes. Goodbye.
Bye.